nearly saw Trump's tariff plans blocked, only to then be restored later. A U.S. federal court of appeals has given Trump sweeping tariffs a reprieve, putting a stay on an earlier ruling from another court. This means the U.S. can continue collecting tariffs while the stay is in place. The U.S. Court of International Trade had earlier ruled in a surprise decision that the tariffs were illegal. For more, we are joined by economist and trade expert David Edick. Thank you very much, David, for joining us here on Washington Watch. David, let's take a step back, if you will. First, could you just broadly and simply explain to us why the U.S. International Trade Court said that Trump did not have unlimited powers to impose those tariffs in the first place?
Well, much of Donald Trump's policymaking in terms of trade is drawn on old, obscure legislation. In this particular instance, the legislation that he drew on was really designed in a Cold War era, dealing with security issues, security conflicts with potential trade partners. So this ruling would limit his authority under that Cold War era act.
And the judge said that that couldn't be implemented as far as this emergency economic power legislation goes. Got that. Now, David, the decision by the appeals court is a legal win for Trump, at least for now. But what about the long term? Does the fate of his global tariff regime look uncertain? How would you characterize it?
Well, uncertainty is the word all the way through this. For businesses, for people, for governments, and now for Donald Trump. I think it's likely that the courts will ultimately kick this to the Supreme Court. But even then, ultimately, this is about politics. This is about power. And Congress is likely to be drawn in at some point to give President Trump clearer trade authority.
Right, and many hoping that it would go to the Supreme Court so it offers less uncertainty and more clarity. But how much does what we saw this week hamper the US's bargaining power? Several countries, including India, are in the midst of hammering out trade deals with the United States.
Yeah, it really complicates things for everybody, including U.S. government trade negotiators. That said, the environment, the larger environment, is one of which tariffs are an emerging policy from the United States. I just think that governments abroad and businesses need to have that in mind as they move forward. I would suggest that governments abroad would be wise to continue the negotiating process, to stay in front of the situation, to stay in front of U.S. negotiators.
David, would you go as far as saying that people negotiating, people in foreign countries negotiating with the U.S. should continue talking but stall in some way, perhaps?
Each team, each government will have to choose their best approach. Yes, stall, but there's risk in stalling. I mean, that's why I say that uncertainty is the dominant theme here. There are no easy decisions from a negotiator's perspective.
Right, David, and if Trump, very quickly, in a nutshell here, if Trump can't use those emergency economic powers from that legislation that he's tried to, what option does he have left in terms of other ways that he can push his trade agenda through?
Well, there are other legal options on the books currently that he can pursue, but I think ultimately if the courts really get in the way, Donald Trump can go to the U.S. Congress. He dominates the U.S. political system. He dominates the Republican Party. The Republican Party has a majority in the House and Senate. He can get things through.
Right, David Edick, run out of time here. Thank you very much for your insights on this ongoing saga with the Trump tariffs.